Hearing Loss Live talks bad apples.
Good morning and welcome to Hearing Loss Live. This past month, we have been discussing bad apples. Are you a bad apple? Have you been affected by a bad apple? What is a bad apple? Well, what we learned, and we always learn a lot at our Let's Talk Tuesdays, so we hope you join us in October and November. What we learned is sometimes we think we're being the bad apple, but the truth is we're actually doing good. How do I explain that? So I'm going to give you a little employer perspective, and I'm going to have Shelly talk about some experiences as well where she felt she was a bad apple, and we actually discussed at the Let's Talk. Nah, you're not the bad apple. Employers sometimes come across as a bad apple because they have had a bad experience. So maybe they took a bite of an apple and it was bad, right? In other words, they had an employee come to them, demand, you're this, that, and the other. I'm going to sue you. You're going to do this for me. And so I'm going to be really honest. The minute you say, I'm going to sue you, that HR or manager has gone to their lawyer and started researching what it is they're responsible and obligated to do. I'm also going to be really brutally honest. Depending the employer's lawyer, the state, a bunch of other factors, the way the laws are written can be interpreted differently unless there's a case law that proves otherwise. Okay, that's as into law I'm going to get. But that person's probably left kind of a bad taste in that employer's mouth. They're going to be gun shy. Oh, you have a hearing loss? Okay. And they're going to immediately start contacting lawyers. But if you come to them and you say, I have a hearing loss, but I know if we can do this, I can meet every requirement of that job. And then they still may be a little gun shy, but if they're a good, human oriented team business employer, they're going to say, okay, let's give it a try. And then they're going to realize it's a one-off that happened. Not the whole community is this way. This is really great moving forward. Now, one of the discussions we had was that employer who really was the bad apple. Luckily, the person didn't get the job. And I'm so glad for them because the comment made was something around deaf and dumb, which still sometimes comes up, sadly. That was an employer who was a bad apple. That's an employer you really need to think twice before you go to work, because they, even if they follow the law, they're going to make your life a living hell. I don't even know how else to say that. But we all can be a bad apple, right, Shelly? I think at times, even when we're being a bad apple, it might be a good thing. Want to share some experience and thoughts?
I feel like a bad apple sometimes because I can be very pro hard of hearing. I want our accommodations to be known. I want people to understand live captioning and card. And I have pushed for that in the past. And for the most part, it was met okay. I mean, there wasn't too big of a deal. I was remembering one night during our last workshop, or one day, I think it was, where the hard of hearing portion of a presentation got cut down to like less than 10 minutes, but the deaf portion was like at least 20 or something like that. So I pushed to have more hard of hearing time because got so much to say. And even these 5-minute podcasts have been tough because we have so much to say, but we got to bring it down. And I wanted a little equality there. So I pushed for pro hard of hearing awareness, I guess. And it it didn't come off well. And then later on, I attended an event by this same company or organization, and I wanted captions for the whole event. But you just can't do a conference all day long with lip reading or assistive listening. My hearing loss is bad enough that I still have gaps, and so I absolutely need captioning. But no other hard of hearing person had requested captioning for these events before. So there was a little negativity and me pushing and kind of feeling like, oh my gosh, I turned this lady off of hard of hearing altogether. But come to find out during the workshop, that lady actually took it upon herself to caption future events without the push.
Yeah, and embraces it, and actually now makes it all available, right? You can have automated, you can have live, you can ask for both, and she makes that happen. So and that's to show, I do believe the person didn't realize the importance at first. So you kind of stick your feet in the mud, and this is a change. I think we all get a little put up a personal wall, maybe. And then once we get, when you give us direction and we get more information, then we can honestly, again, if you're a good employer, or company or whatever, you're going to see the benefit of trying that, right? Unfortunately, there are bad apples, though. And a bad apple isn't just one side. Bad apples come in all shapes and forms. And we have to remember how to get past that. Give me some thoughts on that, because it can happen you can run into somebody who's being aggressive, may not even know they're being aggressive, but maybe they've gotten to a point where they've just had to ask one too many times. So we as hearing people need to remember that. This person who's coming at us in our face, is there a way to step back and de-escalate it by asking some questions? And is there a way for somebody who's had a bad day to de-escalate and maybe go back to that person that they were kind of confronting, sending an email maybe, or, gee, this is like the 5th time today I've had to ask for something so simple as, can you make sure the ALD is charged so I can listen to the damn meeting, right? So, do you know what I mean? Does that make sense, Shelley? What happens when you've had a bad apple? Because Shelley is so far from a bad apple that, y'all don't even get it, but she really feels sometimes she's the bad apple. But what do you do when you've had that bad apple day to hopefully resolve it? And even recently, you've had a point where it didn't get resolved. You finally had to just say, you know what? You're on your own. I'm done with this class. Give me my money back, right? We had that situation. Kind of talk about that for a minute.
The bad apple, it's been a strange summer. I just say that all the way around. It was a very, very strange summer for me. And I took a class through adult education kind of thing, and they didn't want to caption anything. I mean, they were a total bad apple, and they pushed and to me to accept lesser than, and I wouldn't. And I think I could have gone on with legal action if I really wanted to, but at that time, there were so many other things going on that I just couldn't deal with that. I didn't have the energy to deal with that at the time. So I encountered it again this fall. What is it about this summer? Oh my God, I've never run into so many problems with accommodations. And it was started out a bad apple person, but I think somebody must have talked to her and finally said, are you crazy? You can't do this. And so she did come around just 2 days, less than 2 days before the event. I think sometimes you just have to be aware of how much energy you have and can I push through this bad apple? Do I let it go? And do I work around it? I always try to work around bad apples too. And in the end, if it's just not going to work, you kind of have to give up and find that way around that bad apple. So that's what I do. I try to find my way around bad apples.
I wouldn't say give up is the right word for that, though, because sometimes you have, okay, we talk often about are you in or are you out, right? If at the end of the day, legal action is still going to make for a volatile workspace, should you stay? Why would you want to torture yourself with that continuum, right? So I don't know that I call it giving up. I call it educating, and hopefully somebody comes along after and does more educating. And sometimes we do have to seek legal action. And if that's the case, that's what disability law centers are about in your state. That's a great place to go. I don't want us to give up because I don't think it's always about giving up. But sometimes we do have to decide, is this the right time to push the subject, and is it going to make a difference? So I want to say, if you've got a subject where you're struggling with, where to go, ask questions of your community, right? This is where you should be hopefully getting help with a support group, whatever that looks like. Bring a question to us at one of our Let's Talk. We're always open to, we usually have a subject every month, but we always end up talking about a couple of other things as well. And let's talk it through. I'm gonna do one last thing, and that's a bad apple family member. We all have that bad apple in our family who either does not realize they're the bad apple, or maybe they do. And we need to decide, is it a relationship issue or is it the hearing loss? Because if the bad apple situation is around the hearing loss, just like an employer or events or school, whatever, you're going to have to make some decisions on what those boundaries and communication outcomes want to be. Is this something where you could maybe take our strategies class or purchase our strategies videos and sit together and kind of work through what part of it's the hearing loss? Or is it a family dynamic? And is it a family dynamic that's affecting others? We had this situation happen at our house. We talked a little bit about it at the Let's Talk. And we had to come up with some alternatives because it was not the hearing loss. It was actually a family dynamic situation that, once all the members were kind of aware, we were able to make it better. I'm not going to say great. It was never great, but we were able to come to what worked for everybody, who was going to be involved with what. Is that, I know I'm like talking around in circles, but I think it happens with family, right? You have one member who might affect how you view and get treated. Am I crazy?
I'll say the more you educate yourself about hearing loss, the more you can educate your family members, and the more they'll come around. That's what happened with my parents. Because there's a lot of ignorance on both sides. And when you can clear up the ignorance and not ignorance, it's just you don't know what you don't know. And we've talked about that. So I didn't know what I didn't know. They didn't know what they didn't know. But once I started learning more about hearing loss and my technology and the limits of my hearing aids and blah, blah, yeah, I did. I really took to it. And I've been learning since 2009 or 2009. I got serious about learning about hearing loss, and it has helped me in a lot of relationships. So I think if you take the strategies class, lip reading strategies, we give you a lot of information on how to deal with when to lip read, when not to lip read, when to use accommodations, what accommodations you can use. And so you gain knowledge, and knowledge is power, right? But it could be a bad apple family member. Now all my knowledge and learning improved everything with me and my family. And we had no problems after that. So learn as much as you can. I'm going to say that. And then when you have that bad apple, work around it. And Julia's right. Don't give up. But you got to find those communication boundaries, healthy boundaries in regards to communication. We talked about that too.
Anything else you want to add before I close this out? We hope you join us October 1st for our Let's Talk. We are going to talk in the month of October about mindful listening. Mindfulness is a buzzword, so we know that it may not be all happy, joy like you think when you hear mindfulness, but we hope you will join us for that talk, and let's get ready for the holidays, find out what's going on new. We have a lot of stuff rolling out in 2025 that we haven't quite announced yet. So join our newsletter, join our Let's Talk, be the first one to find out. Check out our class schedules that will be coming back out again this winter. We do still have some recorded stuff as well. Have a good day. Bye.